right, welcome everyone. I'm Cheyenne Dominguez. Welcome to the Wellness and Lifestyle Show with Cheyenne. This show is all about encouraging women to take care of themselves, prioritize their own self-care once and for all. And I use that term once and for all because that's what I try to tell myself, that I'm no longer ever again going to put my own wellness or my care on the back burner. And I want to encourage other women to do that too, once and for all. And so my guest today is Julie Palumbo. She's a certified nutrition coach. She's a mom, and she is here to have a conversation around food and nutrition. And one of the things that really stood out for me, Julie, was that how you talk about how we eat is just as important as what we eat. So we'll get to that. But would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. Hey everyone, I'm Julie Palumbo, and I also am a new mom, as Cheyenne said, to a 9-month-old Rosalie. So throughout my career, I started as a financial advisor for 10 years at a big bank. And while I was going through all of that and ramping up that business and starting it, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So I was constantly in this vicious cycle of being sick and stressed, and I could not stop having Crohn's flares. There was no medication that was working for me. And it wasn't until I had a wake up call with a very serious surgery in 2014 that I thought, there's more to this than just medicine. There's something I'm missing. So I worked
Mhm.
with the nutritionist and I completely changed my diet and my lifestyle. And I got really healthy really fast. It completely changed my life. And it was at that moment that I realized that if I could do that for myself and not only take what she had given me, but also learn how to implement that in my lifestyle, because I had a very demanding job. So I had to
Mhm.
maintain that while being healthy. I felt like I could do that for others. So I started to be a health coach on the side. And 2 years later, I became a full time owner of Best Whole Self. I quit my day job and I have been doing this full time since 2018. So that has been quite the journey to get here. I'm still in remission with my Crohn's. It will be 4 years in August that I'm in remission. So I must be doing something
Wonderful.
right.
You must be doing
Um,
something right. So would you
it
say,
worked.
yeah, so would you say when you say you kind of went from, that you got healthy fast,
hmm
would you say like kind of how would you describe how you were living before?
Mm.
Would you at the time, like, did you think that you were living in an unhealthy way? Or was it something you were aware of? Or maybe you didn't really realize how unhealthy you were being?
That is such a good question. I had no idea what what level of health I was, like on a low end of the scale, until I changed my lifestyle, because we start to change our sense of normalcy. I thought it was normal to always have a stomach ache in the morning, and I thought that it was normal that when I went to the down to the shore, I had to worry how close to the bathroom I was while on the beach in case I had to go to the bathroom. And it just became my normal daily life. And it
Mm.
wasn't until I changed my diet, changed my lifestyle, no longer had chronic stomach aches, no longer had these issues, that I thought, oh, so this is how I should be living. This is really normal. In
Mhm.
addition to, even my energy shifted. I was constantly tired. I thought that drinking so much coffee to stay awake was the norm. And then all of a sudden, I didn't require that much caffeine, and it ended up helping my stomach as well. It's amazing how once we get into a certain habit, we just assume that that's the norm until something changes. And then you realize really how bad of a situation it used to be.
I see. Oh my gosh. So how would you say, I mean, to just like pause for a minute and take COVID and coronavirus
hmm
into consideration for the one, because I know a lot of women are, feeling kind of overwhelmed with, navigating through this. And
hmm
I talk with a lot of women who are saying that they want to use this time to feel better, to get better, to focus on themselves. And then I'm also hearing from women who are saying that they don't have time for themselves right now because they're so overwhelmed with everything else they have to do and be, between teaching at home and keeping the kids busy at home and
hmm
just, really engineering home even more than they had to before. So I'm kind of hearing like both perspectives to that. So I'm curious, how has COVID kind of affected your business, your personal lifestyle, your own health, and how are you kind of navigating through it right now?
That's a great question, and I completely understand both ends of what you're talking about. And I personally feel that I would have been on the total end of I'm so busy between work and caring for my 9 month old. My husband's working full time, and all
Mhm.
three of us are here in this condo, so it's not even like we have a lot of space. And I could have been going crazy. And I think that, the motto, you either find an excuse or you find a way, really
Mhm.
plays into how we could get through this. In the beginning, I know I was kind of just in survival mode, make sure we don't get sick, make sure we just do our best to stay in. Getting groceries was a priority. And then eventually it became okay, I could carve out time for myself. I could cook healthier. I don't have to constantly snack. And I think it was a big mental shift. And that's what I've seen also in others, is that we kind of went from fear and panic mode into, again, like I said, like adapting your sense of normalcy. Like, this is our
Mhm.
normalcy now. This is how life is. And the fear subsided, and it's lasting a lot longer than we all thought. So we couldn't keep up those bad habits that we had in the beginning. And now it's just, okay, how do I adapt to this new lifestyle? And the best thing that I have done and that I have told others to do is to specifically carve out time for yourself and put it on your calendar. It could be,
Mhm.
for me, it's 1 hour of me time a day. Most of the time, it's at night after our daughter goes to bed. We have dinner, and then I get my alone time. I have had others put it in the middle of the calendar, and one spouse just takes over for doing all of the work, for taking care of the
Mhm.
kids or the homework or whatever, while the other one does their own thing. You have to get creative. It is temporary, but it's a little longer than we were thinking. But specifically breaking out your day and physically putting that on that calendar to make it
Mhm.
just as important as a Zoom meeting is the only way it's going to get done. Because if you don't find a way, you're going to find an excuse, and then it's just never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, on the calendar, it's funny that even during coronavirus, when we haven't really been able to go anywhere, I find if I don't have my time on the calendar, it's just not going to happen. It
Hmm.
just does not happen. So,
Yep.
so I started this walking group, this virtual walking club, Julie.
Hmm.
Oh, early fall last year. And that was because I just found that I was running out of time in my days to get to the gym and to get in what would have maybe been considered like typical exercise or workout. And so
Hmm.
one day I just said, you know what, I'm gonna just put my sneakers on and just go for a walk just to clear my mind. And so I did that for one day, did that for a few days. Then I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna try to do this 30 days in a row. So I went for a walk 30 days in a row and it was wonderful. So I then started this little Facebook group and now my friends are walking and some of their friends are walking and we're sharing pictures. And then I decided to walk for 60 days and 100 days. And so it's great. But now the walk, like going for a walk every single day, is part of my calendar. I can't always
Hmm.
do it in the morning, but I'll always get it done morning, afternoon, or evening. It's on my calendar every
Hmm.
day. It's kind of like mom's time. My whole family is on board. They know about it. They
Hmm.
know it's really important to me. And so it's like that's like my little time for myself on my calendar. So,
Yes. I'm
so
glad that you
when
do
all else
that.
fails, go for a walk.
Yes. Well, and it's funny that, you label it as self-care, but when you get back from that walk, it's benefiting everyone else around you. So it's
Every-
like family care. You're in a better mood. You're going to be more attentive and more present. And maybe if there was something stressing you out and then you took this walk, you come back, more calm, and it just makes the whole life experience and mood of the house better because you took
Yeah,
this time
yeah.
away. So a lot of people think self-care is for yourself, and it is for everyone around you, kind of care.
I like that thinking that self-care is for everyone around you as well. I like that. I'm taking notes. I'm kind of old school, so I always have
Sure.
Notebook, even when I'm doing interviews, I'm taking notes, even though we're live, but it helps me remember it and, and just kind of, reflect on it afterwards.
Sure.
So, okay. So, tell me more about, how when you say how we eat is just as important as what we eat. So tell me what you mean by that.
A lot of times when we're focusing on a healthier lifestyle, we just automatically think eating cleaner or eating a certain way, following a specific diet. But the way that we eat is just as important because it all comes down to how we metabolize and digest our food. So back in caveman times when we were stressed after we ate, it was probably because a lion was chasing us. So we had to hang on to our food so that it could physically propel us to run away from a lion. Our bodies have not evolved to know the difference between a physical stress like that and just the stress such as hurrying to eat because you have to make a phone call or send an email or just get out of the house to pick up your kid. So
Mm,
by throwing out this stressor, you're producing the stress hormone cortisol. And cortisol hangs around the midsection. It's what causes that stubborn belly fat. So if you're eating a salad, which is, healthy if you put the right ingredients in it, but
right.
you're eating it very quickly, your body goes into stress mode, like a fight or flight mode, and it's not properly digesting the food. It's holding on to it because it thinks that you're getting ready to run away, so it has to store it. Your body's throwing out cortisol, which is the stress hormone, so it produces fat and it prevents your body from really effectively metabolizing your food. And when you think of metabolism, that's what is really burning off calories and transferring our energy from food into useful energy. So when all of that is slowed up, you're unable to lose weight effectively. You're going to feel more tired because your body has to do extra work to break down this food since it's all sitting there in one lump. If you want to visualize it, it has to work a lot harder to break that up. And also, you're mindlessly eating, so you don't even have time to recognize if you're full 5 bites sooner than you stop eating. So, a lot of times, we don't start eating until we're starving, and we're hurrying up and eating while clicking through emails. I mean, we've
Mm,
all done it.
yeah,
And before you know it, you look down and the whole salad is gone, or whatever you're eating is gone, and it was about 5 minutes worth of eating. And maybe you only had to eat half of that salad before getting full, but you're eating so quickly your body doesn't even have time to register for it. So a really good tip or a good strategy is to make sure that you're eating over a span of 20 minutes. And I call it the 20-minute challenge. So you physically set your timer on your phone or whatever it is for 20 minutes and aim to eat over that time. If you only have 10 minutes to eat because you have a meeting or a call or whatever, eat half of your lunch and then save the rest for later. So the goal is to just slow down, make sure that you're recognizing when you're full, making sure that your body is having time to properly metabolize and digest it. And also, just calming yourself down and taking a few breaths before eating also kind of tricks the body into thinking it's not really stressed out, and then you'll
mhm,
prevent that cortisol from being produced. So it's
I
great.
like
I
that.
mean, it's like step one. If you're having a salad, that's great, but if you're eating it very quickly, that's only half the job. You really want to slow down because how you eat that salad is really going to make a difference between how well your metabolism digestive system works.
Wow, I love that. The 20-minute challenge. I will say I didn't consider myself like a fast eater, but I don't think I spend 20 minutes. So, that would definitely be a challenge. I mean, 20 minutes that's a
It's
while.
hard. It
Yeah.
is. And so the first time I did it, I set my timer on my phone and I didn't look at it. I just ate. And I flipped it over thinking I was like, oh, that was at least, 15 minutes. And it was 7 minutes. And I
It's
thought,
like,
oh, okay. So then the next time I ate, I tried to double it. So that's kind of like since it
Okay.
was 7, like to get to 20 was too long. So then I went to like 14, 15. Like that
Mm.
was a stretch
Yeah.
for me. And then I eventually got to 20. Now, if you're engaging in conversation with people, it's very easy. The hard
Right.
to stretch it out, because you're talking and you're taking a break. But when you're eating alone, it is very difficult to eat for 20 minutes.
Slowly.
And
Yeah.
we also, back to the self-care, we don't give ourselves 20 minutes to eat. I know I am personally often am eating in between playing with my daughter or putting her down for a nap or feeding her.
Hmm.
And so it really, then again, if you don't have the full time to eat, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there right now thinking, yeah, right, like I have 20 minutes to sit down and eat
Right.
when I'm at home and have all these things going on. But in that event, again, just then break it down into smaller quantities that you're going
Mhm.
to eat, and break it up over different times throughout the day.
I love that. So I'm going to try that at home. I'm definitely going to try that at home. I know, it's interesting because my youngest had mentioned to me that they didn't have much time to eat at school. And I think that they have 20 minutes to get through the cafeteria lunch line and eat.
Mm.
So, it's really, it's interesting that you share this so that, just kind of puts in the back of my mind that as a parent. And when I have my opportunity to share input with the school, that, that's an area to be, cognizant of, how much time our children have to eat at lunchtime.
Yeah, and that's also a good point. I work with some adolescents too, who have digestive issues, and obviously, I've dealt with that for a good portion of my life. And I remember in school being rushed to eat, and then my stomach would hurt. And especially if you're rushed to eat, and then you have an exam right afterwards, and you're already nervous about that, and then you're eating, and your stomach is trying to digest. I mean, stress really does affect the gut as well, as far as,
Mhm.
causing stomach pain. And they call it the second brain for a reason. So, not only is it good for proper digestion and metabolism for weight loss, but also if you suffer from stomach issues, slowing down how you eat is really going to make a difference, because your body just needs that little extra time to digest it and not get anxious, and then result in a stomach ache.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I'm going to work on my 20-minute challenge. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, what other tips do you have just in general when it comes to nutrition and women taking care of themselves? What kind of tips or recommendations do you have for women who are saying, okay, I know that this needs to be important to me. I want to prioritize this, maybe to kind of get their feet wet to get started, with what are some few first steps they can begin to take to change this aspect of their life?
Sure. So the first thing that I would say is do one thing. Just start with one. I feel like a lot of times we get overwhelmed when we want to start making changes, and then we get so overwhelmed that we do nothing. So if you want to,
Mm-hmm.
let's just use weight loss. That's just like an easier thing to start. So if you want to lose weight, and the one thing that you could do is walk more. Start with that. Just do one thing. Don't think, okay, well, I'm going to walk, and then I'm going to cut this out of my diet and that out, and I'm going to stop drinking. Because if you go so drastic, it's not sustainable. So if you start with one thing, let's say this week you are committed to walking 5 days a week. The next week, you still do that, and then you add on top of it. And instead of having a bagel for breakfast, I'm going to have a smoothie. And then you do that for a week. And then the next week, you do something else. So by gradually making these changes, and it's kind of like those games that like you start and then you keep like building upon. So don't
Right.
forget, you have to keep walking too, and you have to
Right.
keep, those
You're
are
layering on
Yes,
good
exactly. By
things.
doing that, it becomes a lifestyle. So it's not a diet, it's not a quick fix or a quick change. It's a lifestyle change. So it becomes part of your habit. No more than brushing your teeth in the morning is a habit, or anything else you start. And 80% of
Mhm.
the reason we do anything is out of habit, and 20% is because of knowledge. So just because we know we should be eating a certain way or exercising so often doesn't mean we're going to do it if it's not in our habit. And I
Mhm.
think what happens is people see bad habits created so easily, but a good habit could be set just as easily once you get started. So I would say my biggest recommendation is start with one thing, layer on top of it, and also journal. It's really beneficial to write down not just what you eat and things like that, but physically and mentally how you feel, because there will be days where you get a little bit frustrated, or maybe you're not making the progress that you wanted, but you could reflect back on where you were just 2 weeks ago and realize, oh, I have accomplished something, I have done something. So I'm
Mhm.
all about the small changes lead to big results, and it's all about just getting started somewhere. That's the hardest thing, and as you build upon it, it becomes less and less overwhelming, and then before you know it, you look back from a month and you realize how many things have really changed and how many different things are now in your life that once weren't.
Weren't. And so, do you generally use that week by week timeline? Have you found that to be that that resonates with a lot of people? So, one small thing the first week, continue that small thing the next week, and add on something else the next week. So, kind of a week by week
Yes.
timeline? Okay.
That's exactly, and that's even how I work with clients. So I actually work with clients in 4, 6, and 8 week periods because of that building upon each other. And the consistency is really key. So we might have, this is one thing we're going to change, and these are two additional things that we're going to work on or have a goal. Then by the next week, we assess how that went, and it's
Mhm.
easier too when it's bite sized. So okay, like you could do anything for a week, like you could
Right.
commit to this for a week, and
Okay.
then the next week say, okay, now we're going to continue on this and add this. Or maybe what you thought was going to be a good idea for a week wasn't, so we make
Mhm.
some changes. So it's all about just building one upon the other and creating that habit change, so that at the end of the 4, 6, or 8 weeks, my clients see the changes made. It becomes a lifestyle. It's not just a diet. It's not something that they would revert back to their old ways, because we took the actual problem and changed that, and we took into account the emotional side of it too, and how
Mhm.
they feel when they accomplish these things, and how they feel if they don't accomplish these things. And once you bring that all together, that's when you truly become your best whole self, because it's mental and physical health, and it's something that's sustainable, which is what we all need, because we're all too familiar with starting something and being really on task for 2 months, and then all of a sudden it falls apart. So by making these gradual changes and building upon each other, it's very, very hard to go back to your old ways.
Mhm. I love that. And so when you talk about journaling, so you said that you recommend journaling how you feel physically
Mhm.
and mentally. So tell me more about that.
Sure. So some people like to do it throughout the day, just log
Mhm.
it into their phone. I'm one that I do it at night before I go to bed, and I'll reflect on, and especially now, these are such unusual times, but
Yeah.
if I get a workout in now, that is amazing compared to how
Mhm.
it used to be. So, if I look back on my day and I got to work out, and I drank a lot of water, and I had a really great breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I probably having a lot more energy by the end of the day. I
Right.
recognize how well I feel. I recognize how accomplished I feel, so that the next time I'm tired and I'm thinking, oh, I really don't want to do this workout, I could
Right.
reflect back on how I felt, 2 days ago, thinking, you went to bed feeling really good. Don't you want to feel like that again? And
Mhm.
it's a really good way. And then it could work in reverse. I could maybe just have an off day and journal that and kind of like feel through that of, maybe what I'm frustrated about or what I wish had gone differently. And then, of course, the same thing. In a few days, you realize that things could change, and that was just one day. But it's a really good way to kind of keep tabs on how you're feeling and how the days are going, especially now when it feels like the days just blur one right into the other.
Yeah, Absolutely. Well, if you're watching live, feel free to type any questions into the comments below if you have any questions for Julie before we wrap. If you're watching the replay, we welcome your questions too. So if you have questions for Julie, we will circle back to those if you're not watching us live. So I'll be sure to keep an eye on those. So, all right, Julie, before we wrap up, I want to make sure everyone knows where to find you. So how can viewers find you if they want to, learn more about you, follow your journey, or learn more about Best Whole Self, or, what you offer?
Sure. So on social media, I'm on Instagram. It's just my name, Julie M, for my middle name, Marie Palumbo. My website is bestwholeself.com. And I also offer a free digestive health checklist that is downloadable for anyone. And it gives really simple steps to start improving your digestive health and your overall well-being. So it's a bit.ly link. I made it pretty simple. So it's just bit.ly.com/digestive health checklist. And it is a very simple packet. And, it's something that not only have I realized for myself what's beneficial, but it is tried and true through all of my clients that if you're having any type of digestive issues or feeling sluggish or feel like you could be feeling better, back to the whole like, well, you might not know how much better you could be feeling. I invite you to check out the checklist and see, even if it's, 1 or 2 points that you could take away from it that could really make a difference.
Awesome. So any final tips or recommendations for women now as our time runs out, who are saying, I want to prioritize my self-care. I want to take better care of myself, my digestive health, my nutrition. Any last tips for women to get started?
I think it's just the point of get started. Pick a day. Today is Friday. Maybe you want to enjoy the weekend. Start Monday. Put it on the calendar. Visually seeing things makes such a difference. Back to the journaling and putting it on the calendar for your self-care. Put it on the calendar. Make that commitment to yourself. And when you're in doubt or giving an excuse essentially why you don't want to start, just think about the downside and what will happen if you don't do it. And that is really the biggest turning point I had in my life. I thought, what is going to happen if I don't do this? And the thought of, where I would be right now had I not taken control of my health 6 years ago is really scary. So, just think of, if I don't do this, what's going to happen, and just start. I mean, hey, if you don't like it, you could always stop. So it's not like it's a one-way ticket. You can always stop. You can always course correct. Just get started and see how you feel.
And see how you feel. I love it. Okay, so you can find Julie on Instagram. She's at Julie M. Palumbo, and her website is bestwholeself.com. Julie, thank you so much. This is a great conversation. I'm going to take the 20-minute challenge for sure. And I'm going to take that week-by-week approach. I'm going to add something to my goals for next week. So
I love it.
I'm going to get started.
Good. Just get started. Don't stop putting it aside. Just
absolutely.
Gotta do it.
All right, get started, ladies. Prioritize your self-care once and for all. Thanks for watching, and Julie, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Cheyenne. It was great seeing you.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.